So Bleacher Report recently listed Frank Clark as a player that the Saints could still sign in NFL free agency. We're talking some Saints free agency rumors. We're talking some draft buzz and some draft targets. But before we get to that, I was talking with the bosses today. We were out in the office having a team meeting, and they said, Trace, you've been doing good, but we need you to do great. You need to get to 14,000 subscribers by the first day of the NFL draft, which is April 27th, If we can get to 14K by April 27th, we do not have to go sub-only mode. Meaning, if we don't reach that milestone, we may have to turn on sub-only mode, meaning you don't get to comment, you don't get to interact unless you're subscribed. So help us out, make that not be the case. Subscribe today. We're about 500 away. Let's lock it in for Saints news, rumors, and all sorts of fun content. All right, so let's see what Bleacher Report had to say about Frank Clark in terms of what he could do for the New Orleans Saints. He said after 4 seasons in Kansas City, the veteran is looking for a third NFL home. Frank Clark registered a modest 24 pressures and 5 sacks during the 2022 regular season, but again increased his impact in the playoffs. New Orleans has the space to land Clark and a need at edge rusher following the departure of Marcus Davenport for the Minnesota Vikings. So my biggest thing that I've said before and I'll continue to say is Cameron Jordan needs some help. You got to get somebody across the way or across the defensive line for Cameron Jordan to alleviate some of the pressure and get a pass rush, stop the run. And I'm not going to sit here and say Carl Granderson is a bad player. I'm going to sit here and say that, I don't think you should hate me for wanting more out of a player like that. And then also on top of that, I think Cameron Jordan is a phenomenal player, but he's not getting any younger. So if Peyton Turner can't be it, which it's starting to seem like that might be the case, he's quickly approaching bust status. Tano Passanio, he's a good rotational piece, but I don't think any of these guys are players that you could necessarily trust to take starting defensive end snaps. So this is why I think bringing in Frank Clark would make sense. Plus, team up with Colin Saunders, who we just won a Super Bowl with. So let's compare Frank Clark to Carl Granderson. So in 15 games played, Frank Clark had 39 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 13 QB hits, 5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. Whereas Carl Granderson had 53 tackles, 9 tackles for a loss, 9 quarterback hits, 5.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble as well. But in terms of why I think Frank Clark would be a better player for the Saints, he lights it up in the playoffs. Every single year that the Chiefs have made a playoff run or been in the playoffs, he has been a key piece of that on their defense, especially these past couple years. 7 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and 4 quarterback hits in this last year's playoff run, which ultimately led to the Chiefs winning a Super Bowl. And those numbers speak for themselves. Obviously, 2020 he didn't have any sacks, had very little pressures and stuff. But I think that Frank Clark would be a valuable member of the Saints defense, and he would really help boost that defensive line. And so I'm going to ask you this. What say you, Who Dat Nation? Would you sign Frank Clark in NFL free agency? Type HY for hell yes. Type D for I'd rather draft a defensive end. Let me know in the comment section. I'll be interacting with all of y'all whenever you guys let me know. Can't wait to see what you guys have to say. All right, so let's talk about a Saints draft target. Should the Saints look at drafting Tuli Tuopulito? Excuse me, goodness gracious. That is a tongue twister, and I'm so sorry about that. He's a quality guy out of USC. The Trojan last year in 2022, he put up 46 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, 13.5 sacks. He had 3 pass breakups and 2 forced fumbles, and he had 56 quarterback pressures with a 13.9% rate. So in terms of scouting Tuopulito, he's incredible. He was incredible, and he had great production at USC with the Trojans. He is great at shedding blocks. He's undersized, though, at 6'3", 266 pounds. He did have 16 missed tackles this season, which in my opinion is a little high, but he mainly plays edge, and he flashed on the inside on the defensive interior as well. And in terms of whether or not I think that he could be a good fit, sure, I think he could work out. But for me, I personally would rather go get a guy like Felix Anudike-Uzomah because out of Kansas State. I think that he's a quality player that could do a little bit more and be a little bit better of a fit for the defensive line. And I'm going to get into some more thoughts on that. And regardless of whoever does get picked, they're going to get one of these fresh lids. Get you one of these fresh hats, chatsports.com/Saints hat. It's the official draft hat. We have the flat bill, we have the baseball cap, and black. We have it in this gray and white. And then also, we have the Saints Derek Carr jersey. You see me rocking mine. Shout out to John Borelli and Wild 114. Y'all are real ones. Y'all are legends for helping us get to this point. So I got my jersey here at chatsports.com/SaintsCar. I know it has a 0. That's the placeholder picture. I'll update the picture next time we show you guys the jerseys. But either way, get geared up with Fanatics. I'll have the link to both the draft hats and the jerseys in the comment section and in the description of today's video. So that way you can look fresh on game day and the entire offseason. So let's talk about the draft target at the edge rushing position, Felix Anudike-Uzomah. He had 46 tackles last year for the Wildcats, 8.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a pass breakup. Standing at 6'4", 255 pounds, his physical tools surely are nice, and he has some really interesting traits. He has great bend around the edge and a good burst to max it. He has balance issues, though, and he is on the ground too much. That being said, he also needs work as a full-time run stopper, but I think that Dennis Allen has proven that he can develop quality defensive linemen as long as they stay healthy, and I think that he's shown that he knows how to elevate a defense, especially a guy on the defensive line where that is, where the games are won in the trenches. So you are on the clock, Who Dat Nation. Comment below. Which one of these two guys are you taking if you guys have the pick available? Type TT for Tuli Tuopulito and type FAU for Felix Anudike-Uzomah. All right, so let's talk about Devon Achane. I almost messed it up. I can never get it right. I was literally joking with producer Seeps today. Can never get it right. Devon Achane, the Saints did host him on a pre-draft visit. He's the running back out of Texas A&M. So let's take a look at some of the pros versus some of the cons of Devon Achane. He is a speedster. He is so dang fast. He had a 4.32 40-yard dash. He only had 2 career fumbles and only 1 this year, which is awesome. If we remember last year, the Saints had a really bad fumbling problem. I don't want that to be the issue this year. Devon Achane, I feel like, could be a good proponent in making that not be the case. He had 53 missed tackles this year, which is great. He was breaking a lot of tackles. He was getting yards after contact, which is great, at 3.6 yards after contact. And he is explosive, excuse the typo, and he is a home run threat. But where there's pros, there's also cons. He did have better efficiency in 2021, but the Aggies, I'm a Razorback, y'all know this, they weren't good this past year. They beat my Hogs, but oh well. Nothing about the Aggies was that good this year. So, I mean, I'll give it a little, not really much of a pass, but better efficiency in 2021 nonetheless. He is undersized at 5'8", 188 pounds. You can't necessarily count on his pass protection because he is more of a pass catcher, more of a, get the ball and move. He's not going to hold down the fort and be able to block for Derek Carr much. He did have 5 drops in 2022, or had 5 drops total, 3 in 2022, which is not ideal. So we talk a lot about Tyjae Spears, so I wanted to compare Tyjae to Devon Achane, 229 carries to 196 carries. 1,581 yards to just over 1,100. 6.9, very nice, yards per carry compared to 5.6. And then in terms of the receiving ability, both have good receiving ability. 22 catches compared to 36 catches. However, the production was much better with Tyjae Spears at 256 yards versus 196. 21 total touchdowns for Tyjae Spears and the Green Wave. 11 for Devon Achane and the Aggies. I think that Devon Achane could be a quality player, but I have first-class seats. I got early boarding. I bought my tickets about 9 months ago, and I am so far in on the Tyjae Spears train. I feel like I can't make a draft video, especially talking about running backs, without talking about Tyjae Spears. So I want you, Who Dat Nation, to pick a running back for me. Would you rather go get Tyjae Spears? Would you rather go get Devon Achane? Let me know, Who Dat Nation. Pick a running back. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun. Y'all stay golden. We'll catch you next time.